You need money now in the next 5 years to be financially free. And you're knowingly putting money away for the next 20 something years that you can't touch. Those things are just friction. They don't go together. So that's something that we help people to uncover. Like, man, I may be living off of a super small amount because I've done things with my money that wasn't really in line with who I am and where I'm headed. And so anyway, that's just one little small example of what we uncover all the time.
Welcome to the Success Journey Show. Let's travel together through the lives of individuals on the road to success.
Hey, what's going on, travelers? It is Ricky Ventures in Marlon Madden, and we are back with you for and this episode is special for us, man, because Marlon and I, we're partners in crime. And, we people say we've been at the hip for many years, this is the first time on our show that we're actually interviewing two individuals, a company that represent a company and that have come together to build something. And we are so honored to have Joey Mure and Russ Morgan with us today. So welcome, guys. Thank you for coming to the Success Journey Show.
Man, thank you for having us. Really, really appreciate it. And I'm going to have a lot of fun today. I can already tell.
Oh, yes, man, it's a privilege. It's our honor. Why don't you guys start off by just sharing a little bit about yourselves and kind of what you're doing?
I'll kind of start us off. About 15 years ago, Russ and I became friends. We met at church, actually, in Sunday school. And he was a traditional financial planner, the guy in the underbelly of Wall Street, if you will. And I was the guy putting you in hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt on your greatest asset, your house. I was the mortgage guy. And for years, this guy gave me the shaft in our Sunday school class. I mean, he would not refer somebody to me for anything. And then out of the blue, he says, you know what? I'm going to start referring you some people, Joey. And by the way, in order for me to do that, you got to read this book because I don't want you to screw things up with my clients. And he said, by the way, that's going to be $20.
Finance guy.
I'm like, dude, is business hard? Like, are you hard up for some business right now? Because $20. I mean, you should have fronted me that deal. Like, you want me to buy the book? I mean, that's
as he always tries to tell the story and make me look bad. I just knew how cheap he was, and if I knew if he had to come off $20, he was going to read that book, and that's really what my main intention was.
Well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. And I did read the book, and it was exactly the thing that kind of started to make things clear again when it comes to personal finance. And I was on this journey. I don't know if you can relate, but I was in the corporate world. I was moving up. And for me, financial success was a higher income. Like, oh man, I have now reached $300,000 of income. So this is what success looks like. And I looked around and I realized it didn't have the same appeal because I was working 60 hours a week. My wife was pregnant with our fourth daughter at the time, and I was never present. Okay. I didn't realize it at the time because I think guys were just oblivious, right? But my wife was sitting there alone raising kids, and I was out there working hard, bringing in all this money, thinking I'm done something. But I could not get more freedom doing the same thing that I was doing. And this book outlined for me the steps it took to do it. So I started implementing those things with Russ. And 4 years later, the amount of trajectory that changed for my family's financial situation and more so the confidence that I had to know that I was on the path to financial freedom. I was like, dude, more people need to know this. Russ, you're the worst at getting this message out. Like, I got to come and help you. And so I literally went cold turkey, went to my wife and said, I feel like God's telling me we need to do this. And she was like, I think you should do it. And I was like, what did you do with my wife? Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, this is all that I need to run hard after this. And so 2014, Russ and I joined forces. A couple of years later, we launched the brand Wealth Without Wall Street. And all we've been able to do since then is just look backwards and learn from the steps that he and I took personally to now have over $60,000 a month of passive income, and realize that's what people are looking for and need help to do. And so we created 3 steps that people follow in our community of over 5,000 people every day.
Man, okay. You keep saying the book. Like, can you share the book? Is that the secret sauce, or what is that? I know it's not IP.
Well, we were talking about that before we press record, right? I know that you're an author, Rick. So, books are important to us, right? Some of us have mentors that are face-to-face, somebody we get to spend a lot of time with. Some of them are people that we're listening to on podcasts. I'm sure you guys are mentors to a lot of people. And some of them are book authors, right? People that we've just had a chance to read their book. And I had a chance to meet this guy named Nelson Nash one time. I was at a conference. He was in his late 70s when I met him. And he was talking about the simplicity to financial freedom is having access to cash. And he was just talking about the problem is that we have given up all of our access to cash in the form of the way we purchase things and the way that we invest in things. And he said most problems would be solved if people had liquidity. And I was an investment advisor, and my whole job was to take people's money, right? Like I was the guy. Like, come to me, you got money, come to me, I invest, right? Yeah, I was Matthew in this situation for Wall Street. But the whole point is that I had been in that role, and when I met him, it was January 2009, and if you know the time, we were just coming out of one of the greatest recessions our country's ever had. And as an investment advisor, I wasn't feeling really good. I was actually a certified financial planner. I went through this whole 2-year program to become, what I thought the pinnacle of the industry, right? To be the guy who would have answers to a lot of different questions, not only on the investment side. And be honest, I was one of those with my hands facing to this guy. I had no idea what was going on. A lot of times talking to God saying, man, give me wisdom. And what he says is you need to seek wisdom from some other people, because what you're searching after doesn't exist there. And I was at this conference, and this older gentleman was just talking about the simplicity of how people could handle their finances differently, and it had nothing to do with investments. And it was intriguing to me because it was so simple. And he wrote a book called Becoming Your Own Banker. And I took that book and I read it a lot. I shared it with a handful of my friends, and I charged some of them for it, as Joey said. and that was just the baseline for me, like breaking free of the Wall Street mindset. And it started Joey and I on our journey to finding ways to put that cash to work, but in ways that we could access and that we could control, right? Like I was telling my 11-year-old daughter this morning, we were driving to breakfast together, and just what opportunities we have when we have our hands on the wheel, right? Like not that we're in control of anything, it's all God's, but that we can have a say so whenever he gives us that ability. And I think, unfortunately, too many of us, we walk around in our day without the ability to control the outcomes, and that creates insecurity, right? That creates trepidation in what we're going to do and how we can be the best who we can be. And so that is what led Joey and I to getting a podcast ourselves. We started a podcast in 2017, and we started interviewing people, and we learned so many different things about what opportunities really look like, what a real good opportunity is and what's a bad one, how we need to be matching up who we are as investors. We call that our investor DNA to the things that we're investing in. And then when you put all that stuff together, man, it's amazing what can happen. And 2 rednecks from Alabama have been able to see the light and then be able to share it with other people. And Joey and I like to say, we're just beggars showing other beggars where the bread is, right? So it's just a lot of fun, and we appreciate, the chance to be able to share it with you guys.
Oh man, that's amazing. I mean, you're definitely hitting a chord with us, Marlon and myself. I know, especially me, as Joey, so much things you resonated in terms of a lot of people are growing in their career and they equate success to a higher paycheck, a better role, a bigger title, all these different things. But then when you get it, you're sitting there, you're like, yeah, but I'm not really fulfilled. I'm not happy. And then then you ask yourself, man, this whole time I've been chasing this thing, thinking that this is going to be the essence of life. Once I get this, I'll be able to. You get to that point of getting it and you're like, was it all in vain? Right. And the thing is this, though, a lot of people can't see that from when they're in that survival mode, though. Right. A lot of people in that survival mode, they're like, no, I absolutely need more money because I don't want to ever be in a survival mode again. I want to be thriving. So how do you talk to people that are at that place of, I want to be financially free, financially independent, but right now, only thing I can think of is how do I get this next meal on my dinner table?
Yeah, man, what a great question, right? Like, and I know that too. Like, I grew up, my mom and my dad divorced when I was really young, and she had to go back to school to finish her degree to try to make enough money that she could support my sister and I. And I can remember going with her to the grocery store at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And I never knew why at the time. And I asked her later, like, Mom, why do we used to go to the grocery store at 10 o'clock? She was like, because I was on food stamps and I didn't want people to see me when we were having to buy groceries. So I know what that looks like, right? Lived through it and saw her like bring herself out of that to a point where she got a college degree, got a master's degree, and then, did as best as she could with that to give my sister and I a leg up. And I just think of when people are in that level of chaos, right? They lack clarity. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we want to share on the very beginning with people is we have to have clarity. We have to have a goal. We have to know what it looks like. And so we actually walk people through a process. We call it our passport challenge, where they will sit down and whether it takes them an hour and a half or takes them 2.5 weeks, depending on how much time they'll dedicate to it, they actually will build out this passport, which is a visual of what they need to be, do, and have to get to where they're going. And we just walk them through questions and asking them, the things that sometimes may be basic to you and I, but for some people it's not. Like, they don't really understand how much money is coming in and out the door. They don't really know what they're doing with money and what they maybe should stop doing. And they don't really have a vision of what they want to have. And when I say have, some people think, oh, I want to have the riches and, the vacations and all that stuff. But man, it just may be, I just want to have time to be able to sit down at the end of the day and not worry about money. I want to have the opportunity to see my kids off to school and pick them up from school. Like, it could be so simple, or it can be big and glamorous. And so we walk people through that whole process, because once they have a very clear goal, then it's easier to start moving toward the end goal, right? So especially for our coaches, as they're trying to talk with them without knowing where people are wanting to go, you're not going to help them get there, at least not efficiently. So for us, that's the first step. Get clarity as to what you want to have happen and what you're doing right now, so that then the next step becomes even that much more clear.
Oh, and I'm going to add to that, if it's okay. Like, sometimes somebody is in that position of just survival, unknowingly having cash going in places that it's not efficient. It's not in the right direction, because they never stop to figure out that what Russ just pointed out, the goal of what that really looks like. And I'll give you just a couple of really simple things. Somebody will tell us, they come in, they join our passport challenge, like we just talked about. In fact, if you want to, you can download it for free. It's on our app at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/GPS. Just like, get your destination GPS.
Yep.
So feel free to get that. But people will tell us, I want to be financially free in the next 5 years. And let's say that they're 32 or whatever the age is, but let's say that they're in their 30s. and they'll simultaneously be putting money into a 401k at work because they joined up at this job and they were told this is to their benefit and this is going to help them. And so they just, allow hundreds to thousands of dollars per pay period go out the door, and they can't access that money until they're in their 60s or 70s. So it's not to tell you that 401ks are good or bad, but in light of your vision for your life and your goals, you need money now in the next 5 years to be financially free. And you're knowingly putting money away for the next 20 something years that you can't touch. Those things are just friction. They don't go together. So that's something that we help people to uncover. Like, man, I may be living off of a super small amount because I've done things with my money that wasn't really in line with who I am and where I'm headed. And so anyway, that's just one little small example of what we uncover all the time.
Go ahead, Marlon. Marlon's itching, man. Go ahead. I know it.
They're validating. You guys are validating everything I preach. But what happens is that people get caught up with society and how people say to do things, or a lot of people are followers. So what happens is that you have a system and somebody says, hey, this worked for me. And they say, okay, that's the train I'm on. And that's the only way to do it. All that you guys are saying is just validating this last year or the last few years. For me, what I've done is exactly what you guys are talking about, the passport. I talk about reverse engineering, right? If I know, just like you say, you ask somebody, I'm at 32 and I want to be financially free at 37, but you think a 401k is the answer, is what you're doing now conducive to where you want to go? If it's not, you have to change it. I just posted that today with our new episode that came out today. I just posted that. If what you're doing is not conducive to what you're doing right now, if where you want to go is not conducive to what you're doing right now, it doesn't work. You have to change it. And comfort zone is where a lot of people don't understand that they have to get out of. Once you get out that comfort zone, it opens up. Now, I want to ask you guys, I know Rick and I met in church. We're Christians. You guys, men of faith. Now, in the church setting, I want you to talk about how sometimes church could stifle. I know for us, I know that our church denomination don't want to hear it, but for the church setting, a lot of times because of the church setting, you're thinking, I can't gain riches. That's of the devil. That's evil. I have to just lay back and be happy with what I have. How do you approach those people, and how do you get those people out that mindset to think a little differently in order to obtain their goals?
You've been listening to the Success Journey Show. You can check us out on our social media on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Also on our website, thesuccessjourneyshow.com. Enjoy the rest of the show.
This is so funny because literally one of the big goals for Russ and I this year was to sit down with our older daughters. He has 2 older daughters and I have 2 older daughters. They're 16 and 13 and in that range. And we just said, man, what would be something we would regret 10 years from now? And that would be if we didn't pass on the knowledge that we have about financial freedom and investments and these type of things to our daughters. And yet we focused on it with everybody else. Like that would be ridiculous. And so every Friday now we are doing a joint call or in-person meeting with our daughters to start passing this information along. And the very first week was just 2 weeks ago, or was it last week, Russ? Last week. And we started with stewardship, right? Looking at a biblical mandate for riches, for wealth, and for tithing and other things like this. And the funny thing is, this came from me teaching my Sunday school a couple of years ago. I had all the notes from that. And the funny thing is when we read the Bible, there are sections where it talks about the love of money is the root of all evil.
All evil. The
Right.
love.
And you read in another area of scripture, and I wish I had these all memorized, but it for a rich man to enter heaven is impossible. It's like a camel going through the eye of a needle. And so you hear those things and you're like, well, gosh, I don't want to be that guy. I mean, I don't even like camels, and I can't fit through an eye of a needle, whatever. This is ridiculous. But the point, if you really unpack scripture, there's two things. Number one, if God was against people being wealthy and rich or having money, there would be no King David. There would be no Joseph of Arimathea, who was prophesied that Jesus would be buried in a rich man's tomb. And how did that happen other than a rich man was a follower of Jesus and said, I want to gift you this, for this man that I'm now a disciple of. So there's a couple of things from that. The second thing is God's plan to redeem the world is not only for people to go and share the good news. There must be someone who sends them. And in today's day and age, there is money that is required to send somebody overseas. So without one, the other one cannot go. And we're both in the ministry of redeeming the world. So for us and there's plenty more scripture that we could point to about it. But the last thing I'll leave you with is, if we think rich is a term that we don't want to be called, do you think Jesus was referring to the rich in America or the rich in the world? Because the rich in the world, if you know the math, if you make more than about $31,400 a year, you're in the top 1% of the entire world's income. So who do you think is rich? Virtually everybody in America is in that category. So just saying, there's a couple of just things I just pulled out from last week's lesson.
I love that you guys are doing that, the whole element of passing it down to your children. Just realizing, hey, we can't just keep doing this for everyone else and not doing it in home. And because it's so easy to get caught up in, hey, they see us and it's just, they know, I think there's an assumption sometimes as parents as though, hey, they know because we're always talking about is what we work and it's what we do. But then it's like, wait a minute, but have I actually sat down and walked them through step by step? This is what I do. This is what I believe. This is how I believe it. And this is what the information I want to pass on to you, because honestly, you guys are the best people to do it, because if, they go out on their own and try to do it, then someone charge them thousands of dollars, this and there, or it will cost them thousands of dollars just in mistakes, right? Or hundreds of thousands of dollars in mistakes.
Yeah, 100%. I was taking my oldest daughter is a junior in high school, and she wanted to go visit a college. And so we went and spent the night, and I went to a basketball game the night before, and then, went and did the whole college tour stuff. And we were finishing up, and she and I just sat down to have a little snack before we headed home. And I was like, look at all of these kids. They're all, studying hard. They're all spending, tens of thousands of dollars to get degrees, to get a job, to go to work. And you know what? Just like every one of these people, every single day, we have people just like them who've been out of school for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, calling our office, emailing our office, saying, please, will you guys show me the way so that I can get out of this job? Will you please help me get out of this prison I've built for myself, because I want time freedom. I want to stop trading time for money. And I said, I love the fact that you want to learn and you want to educate yourself, and maybe college is the best thing for you. I said, but we need to learn how to be financially free without dependent on this degree, without dependent on a job. Because I wouldn't want you to leave and know that you didn't have the option, right? Because most of these kids that we're looking at right here, they didn't know it was an option.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Nobody told them.
Everyone's doing it.
Yeah, to your point, Marlon, you were saying earlier, we Joey is great at reminding me this, Russ, is what you're doing getting you closer to or further away from financial freedom. And financial freedom is actually a really easy formula. And you guys probably already know this, but I would say most of the people listening to this podcast right now don't know that there's actually a simple formula to financial freedom. Would you guys want to hear it?
Give it to him.
Go ahead.
All right. So, and I'm going to say, as long as you're not driving, you can write this out for yourself. And you can actually, right now, you can tell exactly where you are, how close you are to financial freedom. It's just as easy. The left side of the formula, passive income. That's money that comes in that you do not go to work for. That may be that you got a rental property that comes in. You may have an Airbnb out there. You may have royalties from music. You might be a famous book writer like Ricky and receiving all this money coming off Amazon, whatever it may be. Anything that you have coming in on a monthly basis that you don't have to work for, that goes on the left side. On the right side is how much money do you spend on a monthly basis? What is your monthly expenses? Now, for some of us, we don't keep good enough track. And so we need to go, build that out. We need to figure out what that is. But if you take the number on the left and divide it in the number on the right, it will tell you exactly as a percentage how close you are to financial freedom. And let me show you. If I had $1,000 a month of passive income and I had $10,000 a month of monthly expenses, I would be 10% of the way there. And at least now I know the mark. And there's so many people, as we were just talking about that retirement calculator, they'll enter in what their age is. They'll enter in how much their income is, what their savings is.
I was just doing it.
And what it'll tell them is, like, for most people, give up. Just give up. Just quit looking at it, because you are so far from there, it doesn't matter. And that is defeating, right? Like, that is defeating. But when we know that the mark is, I just got to get the number on the left to equal or exceed the number on the right, it's amazing to people, and it doesn't have to be famous people, right? Like, there's a game that we play with our kids called Cash Flow. And it was Robert Kiyosaki's game. And man, when you understand that, like, I mean, to be honest, I want to be the janitor every time in that game. Like, I want,
exactly.
Because I know that's my barrier to get to passive income exceeding my expenses is a lot lower than that doctor, or that attorney or pilot or whatever. So, and that's the game. And so just us understanding that, and then, like you said, us being able to pass that along to our loved ones, and then being able to share that with other people is amazing.
Man, go ahead, Marlon.
I think it was Joey in your bio. You said you love going to the beach with your family and stuff like that. They say when you're, if you put your age in that calculator, it's when you're 65, 70, you're going to make that happen.
Can't even enjoy the beach.
You can't even enjoy the beach because your walker, even though you have those two balls at the end, they can't go through the sand. So it's just crazy. What happened is that you guys are reaffirming a lot of the stuff, because this goes against some of what the traditional financer or somebody that's leading somebody to financial freedom would say. They tell you, pile on your 401k, pile on your 401k. Funny enough, two things before, I don't want to take up too much of the time, because I like you guys. Everything you're saying just reaffirms what I'm thinking. Two things. When I first learned how to purchase a house, 2005, when I first joined the Marine Corps, I came back from Iraq, and my boy, he said, "Yeah, I bought a house." And I was like, "You did what?" And for me, coming from New York, you don't buy a house. You rent. You just keep renting. Only people that had the doctors and everybody else, they bought a house. So once I figured out how to buy the first house, I said, okay. And then I saw how it helped me with cash flow when I bought the second. I said, okay, I got this. So I started real estate, right? And then the pandemic happened. And I was deployed. Me and my wife had our anniversary.
The recession happened. Remember?
No. The pandemic that just happened. I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, that one. Okay.
So me and my wife just had. You see how he does me, Joey, or Russ, because Joey's been killing Russ.
Yeah, I know. I feel it.
Yes,
he's older than me, so sometimes I gotta help him out a little bit with his memory.
They do. Hey, Marlon, they always think they're helping us. They always try to help.
Go ahead.
So
go ahead, sir.
The pandemic happens, and then I was deployed. so many times that I got time to stay home, walk, and just be with my kids and my family. And to me, that was the most important thing while having the income of you guys paying your taxes. Appreciate that, right? So
that's some passive income, bro. That is some serious passive income.
I was working on a computer. Now, how do you shift when somebody comes in front of you now that has this whole grand idea of how finance works, and you sit with them and you, instead of talking about their assets and liabilities and all these different things, and you just say, hey, put your passive income and put how much you make a month, and they're like, passive income, I don't make none of that. So I'm not even 10% of the way. How do you change somebody's mindset to say, hey, okay, we got to shift in another gear when it comes to finance?
I think the easy part in this is that if they will actually take time to figure out what they want, right? I mean, it's pretty easy. If we would take the time, which most of us want, I think we've probably all seen the billboard or the sign that said, we'll spend more time this year planning our vacations, we will our future, right? But for the person who will take that hour and a half, or however long it take them to go through that passport challenge to get really clear what they want. I mean, I'm not talking surface level stuff, like going deeper, like really, what is it that you want to be or become, right? And you start going through that, you start thinking, and we'll prompt them, right? Deeper level questions. And most of the time, it's just going to get into family. Like, what is it? Legacy. We're going to start thinking through our time, talents, treasure, all of these things. And when they do that, then they go, ooh, now they start to prioritize, this is more important for me. So when they come out of it, it's like, man, I want more of time with this. I want to be able to do more of this. Okay, well, what's going to give us more of that? Is it money? The $5 million in a 401k account doesn't provide that. You've got to have time freedom. And to be honest, like, we can show you how to get the time freedom you want in a fraction of the time that it would take you with a fraction of the money. But that's only if you want it, right? Jesus asked the man sitting beside the pool of water, said, do you want to be healed?
Correct.
Right. And
Correct.
at the end of the day, they have to say, I want to be healed, because otherwise we can't help them. And for those who say, man, this is what I want, and I truly want to do it, then like, we're on board. Like, we got a process. We can show you, we can walk with you. We can support you in that. If you want to be healed.
Listen, we are, man, I hate to end this podcast because there's so much more we can talk about just for myself. You know, I may end it early. For all you listen, I may end it early just so I can get some more questions in. But I want you guys to share, before you guys get off, where people can find you, learn more about this whole passport assessment that they need to take, because travelers, this is what you need. This is everything we've been talking about in the past is come to this point. And I'm going to tell you this, we didn't plan it to be this way. We did not plan it to be this way. We were very blessed to meet Russ and Joey, and we had to share this information with you guys in this world, because we knew that this is what we were saying, and people looking at us like, oh, we don't know, you don't know what you're talking about, or this or whatever. Oh, that's great for you guys. But when having people come in and just affirm and just share from their perspective, we didn't even prompt them as to say any of this stuff, right? So share where they can get in contact with you, what you feel is the best next step for anybody that's listening to this. And I know Marlon has one more question too. So go ahead and answer that one first, and then
so
Marlon, close us out.
So our what we did a few years ago is we decided and we invested in building our own app, because, to be honest, the number of cat memes and political garbage that's on all the social media channels, it's just a distraction. It's not helping you get closer to financial freedom. And even our Facebook group that we had at the time, it wasn't going anywhere. And everything was kind of in all different places. So what we did is we brought it all into one place. It's our community where you're surrounded by other people that are going to not be pulling you back from success, but pushing you forward on this journey. So I love the name of this podcast, Success Journey. That's exactly what the community's for. And when you go to that link that we shared earlier, wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/GPS, think, I got to have my destination and I need somewhere to walk and walk on the same path that everybody else is going. That's the GPS for us. So wealth.wallstreet.com/GPS. You can download the app, and then, man, hit us up in there. There's a DM function that we love to know whenever we've been on somebody's show that people have found us there. So let us know you heard us on Success Journey, and we'd love to catch up with you there.
Great. Love it. Love it. Anything else you want to add, Russ?
Well, to what Joey said, I mean, when you join the community, it's going to have a big start here button. It's going to tell you like, hey, here's the process, and that there's a course tab, and that course for Passport is right there. It's free. It's the best thing that you'll be able to do and be able to get access to. And whatever you do from that step forward, I think will become much clearer after you go through that process. We point everybody to that. We've had so many testimonies of people that have just raved and said, man, I've gone back through this 3 times because, and we've got, wives that are listening to it and they say, man, I gotta get my husband on board, or husband saying, I got to get my wife on board. Because too often times when I was a financial advisor, I would have husband and wife come sit down, and they had like, one of them had this goal and one of them had this goal. And you could just see they were basically paddling the boat in opposite directions. And the objective of this is that they sit down and they go through this, and they have to come up with the goals as one. And they also get to see what the other one wants. And it's amazing how that then it's like, oh, that makes sense why you say this, because this is your goal. And oftentimes they want to accomplish the same thing. They just have a different way of trying to go about it. And so for us, we say, go through that process, join that, go through that wealth.wallstreet.com/GPS. It will instantly make you a member of the community, and then go through that course. And man, just from that point forward, we'd love to interact with you and help you take the right next step.
Man, I love it. Guys, I always, any other guest that's listening to this that we had said, man, we need to do a part 2, and you haven't done a part 2 yet, I'm not disrespecting, right? Russ and Joey, we need a part 2, and I'm serious. We need a part 2. This is so, like Ricky said, we didn't plan it, and we usually do all our podcasts on Mondays at 8, and our time frame didn't work, and I'm happy now that your guys' agent was relentless in saying, okay, let's find a time where we can make this happen, because I think the devil was trying to keep us apart from each other. And now, I think we're going to, anyway, we'll talk off the air with this, because I'm telling you, we need a part 2. And I'm so happy that we got a chance to get you guys on the show to actually validate and explain to people what it takes to actually be successful, and also to show that you could do it in a fair and good manner.
Well, travelers, we come to the end of another show. We want to, from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you, Russ and Joey, for just coming and just sharing your thoughts, sharing your journey with us. But we know we just scratched the surface. For all those that are out there, if you want to hear more from Russ and Joey, please go into the description to go to their website, Wealth Without Wall Street. Make sure I can do that right, Wealth Without Wall Street. Follow them. Get involved. This is the time right now to make your financial health, wealth, security a priority in life. And so we also want to say, just remember to go out and just go to our website, successjourneyshow.com, and you can see all the other guests that we've had on YouTube, all listening platforms. Leave a review, comment. Check in with us if you want to see or hear from another guest or ask a guest a question. Please reach out to us. We want to thank all those that have left all those amazing reviews so far. We really appreciate you for listening and being here with us. But until next time, we'll see you next week at the same place. Be blessed, and we'll talk to you later. All right, everyone. Have a good one.
One love.
You've been listening to The Success Journey Show, where your dreams, drive, determination, and diligence are the foundation to success. For more information, check out thesuccessjourneyshow.com. The Journey Squad is here helping you to your destination.